She said it was a networking dinner. I followed the perfume to room 512. I restore old watches for a living, which means I spend my days listening for the quietest kinds of truth. Give me a movement that's lost its beat, a balance wheel that's drunk or lonely, and I can find the split hairs in its rhythm. In my world, a second is never just a second. It's a promise that something will show up when it said it would. Maybe that's why I noticed before I admitted it. My wife's promises were running a little fast on Thursdays. Nina called them networking dinners. She'd come home with that champagne glow people get from air-conditioned rooms and flattery. I'd kiss her cheek and taste a citrus in the mix, grapefruit, a little hotel soap, a rumor of someone else's cologne standing a respectful distance away. She'd slip out of her heels and tell me who'd complimented her campaign, who wanted to circle back about brand alignment, who insisted she was such a vibe. I'd smile because I love her ambition in a way I can feel in my teeth, and because it's hard to say "stay home" to a woman who taught herself to rise. The thing about watches is that dust leaves patterns. You learn to read tiny differences, this screw, that spring, that wisp of metal shaving hiding where it shouldn't. The thing about marriage is, it does too. The clue that got me wasn't a text or a lipstick. It was a scarf, her silk one with the pale blue edges, the one she knots like a secret around her throat when she wants to look like trouble on purpose. I found it in my shop on a Friday morning, folded into my jacket like a love note from a life I hadn't lived the night before. She stopped by late Thursday to bring me a burger and tell me she couldn't stay. Another dinner, she'd said, like the calendar had raised its hand. I picked up the scarf and held it to my nose because some cliches are useful. Grapefruit again and something else. Lobby flowers, the kind that are white and expensive and replaced every day so no one has to watch them die. A name was stamped discreetly on the edge. Lumen. Lumen, a newish hotel 5 blocks from my shop, all brushed brass and velvet chairs. Nina had talked about their bar once. Everyone looks better there, she'd said. Even the drinks look like they paid rent on time. I'm not proud of what came next, but I won't lie about it either. I finished my repair, a 1940s Omega with a shy heartbeat, closed the shop early, and walked to Lumen like I was taking a machine in for a test. The lobby smelled like someone had bottled the word clean. The bar was sunken, glamorous, a place where people wear their best faces. I chose a booth in the corner that made me feel both invisible and framed. I ordered a club soda because I wanted my hand steady. The bartender slid it over with a knowing half-smile that said, "We all pretend something in here." At 7:48, Nina came through the revolving door in a dress that had never met daylight. It wasn't scandalous. Nina doesn't do obvious, but something about the way it held her suggested skin like a solved puzzle. I watched the doorman greet her like they knew each other casually, the way people do when they've both decided familiarity is a kind of courtesy. A man in a charcoal suit rose from a table to meet her. Early 40s, ocean gray hair, a jawline that probably had a publicist. He placed his hand in the small of her back the way men do when they think they are making room for a woman to walk and are actually making a claim. I didn't record anything. I didn't take pictures. I watched my wife laugh, tilt her head, touch the man's sleeve as if testing fabric. I watched her mouth shape words I used to take home like souvenirs. I watched my second hand make laps and tried not to decide my life all at once. They stayed an hour, he paid, they didn't kiss. When they stood, she tugged at her scarf, a reflex maybe, and he let his hand hover above her waist a moment too long. The elevator opened with a small, polite sigh. They stepped in. I never knew I could hate a ding. I didn't follow them upstairs. I waited 5 minutes and followed my shame to the desk. Room 512, I said to the clerk, casual as I could. "I'm joining my wife, Julian, her husband." My voice didn't crack until after the words, which felt like something a high school actor would pray for. He checked the reservation and gave me that hotel smile that holds everything and admits nothing. "Mr. Hale," he said, "of course, your key." I took it. I got into an elevator that smelled faintly of money and patience and watched the floor numbers blink like a countdown. When it opened on 5, the hallway was quiet and over-carpeted like the world's gentlest secret. Room 512 waited with a red eye that wanted to be forgiven. My thumb hovered over the slot long enough to consider the ways a man can live with himself after this. I slid the card. The light turned green. In stories, doors open on answers. This one opened on a room arranged to deny them. The bed was made the way people describe surgery. The curtains were drawn to a twilit city. A plate with 2 strawberries sat on the console, untouched. The bathroom door was ajar, and in the mirror I saw Nina's dress hanging from the hook, a clean ribbon of shadow against stone. I heard water but not the sound of a shower. I heard a voice, a man's through the wall, slightly tinny. "Yes, I'm at the hotel," he was saying. "Half an hour, she's in the bathroom." I moved before I confessed to myself I was moving. I stepped back into the hallway and let the door catch itself, a soft snick like a swallowed word. I found the stairwell and walked down, not fast, not slow, just with the kind of purpose you use when you know the difference between explosion and detonation. On the second-floor landing, I sat on the steps and let my head touch the cool, painted cinder block. I didn't call her. I didn't call anyone. Eventually, I stood, walked back to the lobby, and turned in the key. The clerk met my eyes long enough to be kind without being brave. I stepped into the night and followed it home like a dog that didn't like me anymore. YouTube would prefer I say we solved it with a montage. Flowers, therapy, tearful laughter, a charming counselor in suede boots. It didn't go like that. What happened was I went home and set 2 place settings and waited. What happened was I poured a whiskey and didn't drink it. What happened is at 10:21, Nina walked in like she wanted to borrow the person she used to be. She smelled like grapefruit and a city shower. She kissed my forehead, which is either a benediction or an apology in a dress. "You're up," she said. "I was thinking about you," I said, and the words could have meant devotion or indictment. I took her hand and turned it over, pressed my lips to the soft center of her palm. That's the place I've always kissed when I want to ask for mercy without saying the word. "Come with me." To her credit, she did. I led her out the door and down the block to my shop. I unlocked it in the quiet of our street and let us in and clicked on only the lamp by the workbench. Watches slept in their trays. The window reflected us like strangers. "Julian," she said, voice careful, "what is this?" "An experiment," I said. "I want to see if we still work." I took off my jacket and tossed it on the stool and stepped close enough to smell the part of her perfume that doesn't belong to the bottle, the part that's learned her skin. I touched her hip, continental drift slow, and arched a brow like I was asking a question I didn't feel obliged to repeat. She's always been better than me at not running from heat. She stepped in, slid her arms around my neck and let her weight find my body. Our mouths met like they remembered choreography. We didn't rush it. We let it be suggestion, a rehearsal open to the public. I kissed the corner of her lip, the line of her jaw, the little hollow below her ear where she keeps her impatience. My hand stayed where PG-13 allows, shoulders, the satin line of her spine, the dangerous border at the small of her back. Her fingers slipped under my shirt and found the scars on my ribs from a teenage bicycle crash. I never stop pretending doesn't ache when it rains. I wanted to forget what I'd seen. I wanted to pull her onto the work table, knock aside a tray of screws, and promise to be messy in the best ways. I wanted to be 23 again, and I wanted a different life from the one I'd come back from 30 minutes earlier. Wanting is free. Doing has interest. I let my forehead rest against hers. I went to Lumen, I said, saying it felt like pulling a splinter the size of a street out of my finger. Her breath hitched, then leveled. No flinch, no dramatic denial. Nina closed her eyes and nodded like I'd just told her the weather was stubborn. Okay. Okay, I repeated, and the word was a plank we could both stand on. I saw you at the bar. I didn't watch anything else. I used a key I shouldn't have used. I opened a door I shouldn't have opened. I closed it. I came home. She lifted my hand and placed it on her pulse like she was daring me to count it. I didn't want to lie to you, she said, but I wanted to feel something I wasn't feeling. And then the lie becomes the thing you're feeling. God, I hate that. Silence in a watch shop is different. It's full of sleeping seconds. I heard all of them then. Is he your future? I asked. It came out so calm I almost respected myself. Because if he is, I'll get out of your way. I'm a grown-up. I can pack my nostalgia in newspaper and wish you soft landings. But if he's not, we're going to burn this out of our walls, Nina. We're going to sweat it out and smoke it out and scrub it out until Thursday smells like garlic in us again. She looked at me like my face had just told her a joke it always meant to tell. He's not my future, she said. He's an elevator button I kept pressing even when I knew the car wasn't coming. I laughed softly, because sometimes your wife will hand you your own metaphor. Then put your phone on the bench, I said. Call him, put it on speaker. Tell him what is not happening again. I will, she said, and to prove it, she did. The conversation wasn't dramatic. If anything, that hurt more. He sounded surprised and then bored and then a little cruel, the way people get when their favorite game is over and they didn't see the whistle. She hung up and blocked his number like it was housekeeping. Her hand was shaking when she set the phone down, so I held it between both of mine until her skin calmed beneath my thumb. We're not going to pretend away the bruise, I said, but I want to earn you back in the places that still listen. Show me, she said, the two most erotic syllables in our alphabet. So I did, not with anything a video platform would yank down, but with the kinds of touches that used to make us late for everything. I sat her on my stool and unknotted her scarf and slid it off her throat like a ribbon from a gift. I kissed the place the silk had warmed. I traced the strap of her dress with the back of my finger and let the strap fall half an inch and no more. I moved like a gentleman with bad intentions and perfect timing. We breathed each other in, until the clock over the door was the only creature in the room brave enough to keep talking. When she stood, she pulled me with her the way gravity writes laws. We didn't rush past the place where suggestion becomes decision. We let the moment hold us and say the thing it came to say. This is ours if we keep choosing it. Then we locked the door and walked home without making the night pick sides. Healing didn't put on a show for us. It was laundry and therapy requests and new rules, yes, but also a strange, illicit thrill at the ordinary. The first Thursday after, I closed my shop early and cooked. Nina came home in a dress I'd never seen, green like the kind of risk I admire. We ate at the coffee table with our legs touching. We put on a Billie Holiday record and danced in our socks. My hand found the small of her back, and hers didn't move it away. Later, in bed, with the lights off and the window open to a city that forgave us, we relearned how to speak without getting censored. My mouth found the geography it once could recite in my sleep. We kept our promises and our privacy, fading to black for anyone who doesn't live here and filling that darkness with the kind of heat that doesn't need witnesses. People ask me now how I knew to try instead of leave. I never know how to answer without sounding like I'm bragging about pain. Maybe it's this. I spend my life resuscitating time. I believe things can be coaxed back into their beat. I also know when to stop turning the screw. We still have a rule about Thursdays. I lock the shop. She leaves her phone on the dresser. We burn garlic and let music climb the walls. The grapefruit perfume is retired. I bought her a new scent that smells like fig and cardamom in a room we don't owe anyone. Every now and then we walk past Lumen, and I feel something hard go soft inside my chest. We don't look away from it. We nod, like people who have survived their own plot twist and found a way to make it the backstory. Last week, a man came into my shop with a watch that had stopped at 8:03. "It died on me," he said, smiling at the drama, "right when I needed it most." "It didn't die," I told him. "It paused, maybe to make sure you were paying attention." He laughed and left me to my work. I let my loop settle into the groove above my eye and opened the case and felt, for the thousandth time, the quiet relief of something that wants to run again. Nina texted me a photo that afternoon, a hand holding two ice creams, pistachio and black cherry, her caption, "Thursdays are sacred. Don't be late." I was. I closed on time. I walked fast. I kissed her hello like a man who knows the cost of a second and the price of regret. And when we got home and put the cones on the sill and let them melt a little, we licked sweetness off each other's fingers and laughed and called it dinner. Room 512 remains a number I don't have to forget to forgive. The scarf hangs on the back of our bedroom chair like a good secret that behaved itself. I still fix watches. We still fix us. Sometimes late, with the window open and a record whispering the truth, I tell her a story as my hands map her shoulder and the hollow of her collarbone. About a door I opened and a door I closed. About how the beat stuttered and then found itself again. About how a man in love learned to measure time by a mouth that says his name the way midnight says stay.